All right. I hope you're excited about this session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Very, very excited to be part of this event, which is fully virtual, fully remote, and global. Right. So today I'm going to just touch on this topic on product leadership from discovery to delivery, which is very important for any product managers out there. All right. And before I start, really want to do a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Eric Chan. I'm based in Singapore, sunny Singapore, a very small island, right? And I've been in part of ADPList mentorship program since August 2021. So it's slightly more than a year since I joined them as a mentor. It's been a very, very awesome experience mentoring folks, product managers, and product folks out here. And just sharing last things that I have from a product management experience perspective is that I was in PropertyGuru, which is a leading property portal in Southeast Asia. Some context here is that I was managing monetization, right? So very money making kind of thing. And right now I'm in Grab, right? So if you are in Southeast Asia, if you're in Singapore especially, it is the Superapp in Southeast Asia. And I'm leading the ads domain in Grab. So essentially, if you see any ads in Grab ad, essentially that kind of fall on my plate. So that's me, right? And first of all, if you have any questions, do just post. I believe there's a Q&A section, and just post any questions you have as I go along this session, this masterclass. So speaking about Grab, this is me. All right, so we look at product discovery. This is me literally doing discovery on the ground. So I'm a fan of getting out of the building. I'm a fan of really going on the ground with customers, with consumers, and being myself, really riding, right? So Grab, for context, for those who are not in Southeast Asia. So Grab is a food delivery as well as transport, as well as grocery delivery service super app. And that was me trying out delivering food, right, to kind of neighboring residents around a Grab kitchen, right, which is a cloud kind of sourcing kitchen from Grab. So that was me, really on a really discovery front. And what I'm trying to answer the question is: are we solving the right problem? Right? Are we solving the right problem? And essentially, what we're looking today into is discovery, and it's not a one-off discovery. It is a continuous product discovery. It's not one-off just to hit and go, right? It's really continuous, right? Means you are always grooming. You're always like a backlog like grooming. You're always looking at how do we understand the customers more, how do we understand the business more, and how do we understand the competitors more, right? So, and if you look at continuous product discovery, I'm a huge fan of Teresa Torres, right, which wrote this book on continuous discovery habits, right? If you look her up, you will basically see a lot of articles from her. And these are some quotes from her, right? So, good product discovery requires discovering opportunities, right, as well as discovering solutions, right? So, an opportunity solution tree is a simple visual that helps you reach a desired outcome. So, in short, opportunity solution tree OST is very user friendly and very easy to adapt and easy to use framework that is. I'm a huge fan of it. I use it everywhere I go. I literally also use it for my own life out of the PM world, right? So it's really, really, really useful, and that's something that I would like to introduce in this session on product discovery. All right, so this is how it looks like. Don't mind the very basic graphics, but content is the content is the most important thing, right? Doesn't need to be fancy. This so at the top level, we look at the outcome, right? What we want to achieve as a team, what we want to achieve as a product, right? And the second level going to the opportunities, right? Third level, right, the solution, right, that to kind of to seize the opportunity. And all the solutions, we could run a few experiments, right, to validate the solutions and laddering up to seize the opportunity to achieve the outcome, right? So you can see this like a tree, right? So you can imagine the tree of solutions, ideations, opportunities, and leading up to what we want is to achieve outcome. All right. So what's better than giving you an example, right? So this is ADPList. All right. Those of you who are mentors like me, this is a dashboard you will see every day, every week. All right. You can see the minutes that you've mentored. You can see the sessions that you have done. You can see your achievements. You can see your bookings, the messages. And if you look at messages, for example, right? So you can see who messaged you. Could be fellow mentors, could be mentees, right? And obviously the chat, right? So for example, this mentee was just texting me and said that, hey, he's excited about the conversation, right? Say, hi there, looking forward, thanks. Yes, very simple. And the example here is really just imagine you are in a product team, right? That you're looking at engagement, right? And the outcome here is to really increase engagement between obviously mentors and mentees, right? The very important people in ADPList ecosystem, right? I believe all of you, if not most of you, are either mentors or mentees or even both. I mean, I'm actually a mentor and a mentee because I'm a mentee to a few mentors and I'm also a mentor to other mentees. All right, so that's the good thing about ADPList. And going down from the outcome, right, to opportunities. So ideation, it can be with the team, it can be you and a fellow PMs. But if you look at this on opportunity level, is we look at, hey, as a mentor or mentee, I want to send or receive engaging messages to my mentees easily. All right, and you can look at, hey, as a mentor mentee, I want to da 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 da. Right, so we can imagine this tree growing to different branches. So for example, I'm just going to dive in straight on one of them so that you get the gist of it. All right, so from solution perspective, how do we seize the opportunity to able to send, receive messages easily and is engaging and ultimately increasing engagement, right? So one of the solution ideas, obviously, able to send images and videos, right? So if you are on ADPList today, you will know that we are not able to send image and videos through the chat. We can only send text. Quick short reply selection, mobile app with messaging capability. I think this is definitely something extremely interesting, right? Because now ADPList is on web, it doesn't have a mobile app. And I'm just putting solution X as a placeholder. You can manage the tree growing to different branches. And this is not exhaustive, right? This could be 10 different solutions. So this is just an for example, right? This is a very small tree, in fact, for example. All right, so going from the solution level, we go down to, hey, what kind of experiments can we run? Right, so able to send image and videos, how easy it is, and what is the user behavior or consumers behavior that will cater to this solution, right? Obviously, sending from downloads galleries, or you want to take video, photo on the spot and send, right? It depends on use cases, right? And a quick short reply selection, right? So this is, I love to bring references because that brings inspiration from other companies as well. LinkedIn, I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn, right? So um, these are, I mean, this is an example. It's just a screenshot of my friend reaching out. Hey, thanks for reaching out. How are things in Grab? Right? So far, so good. It's good. It's great. So these are really quick, short replies that will help to really basically increase engagement. We kind of cater to that solution or opportunity to send or receive messages easily. So it's very quick, right? Obviously, the obvious kind of progression from that is really personalization, right? And obviously improving the machine learning to get the right messages, to get the right replies according to the messages in the chat. Right, so this is just an example of OST. So if you're a product manager or even a product designer or anybody in the product organization, strongly encourage to try it out, right, in whatever problems you're solving in your daily work, in your PMing, right? Because I use this in different organizations and it has been really helpful. And the key thing here is really don't do it alone, right? You do it with a group of team members. If you are in a squad, pod, team, whatever you call it, right? Product team, of like you have engineers, designers, PMs, analysts, bring everybody together, do it together, and that will be even more fun to do it instead of doing it alone. All right, so this is the OST. Look it up in online. There are lots and lots more materials on that. So credit to Teresa Torres as well. This is all from her. I'm just putting this in front of you so that you get this gist in just 15 minutes. All right, cool. I'm assuming you're putting questions in the platform, and I'm going to just go right to next section. Right. So with the OST, and you realize that, hey, these are the right, these might be the right problems to solve, right? And these are really painful problems to solve, in fact. And next question is, hey, how big is the problem? Right? What is the impact you're making? What is the outcome you're trying to drive? Right? And the other way to look at product discovery is really from an outcome driven or even outcome slash metric driven approach. Right? So put OSTs to the side, right? And let's switch gears a little bit to metric driven. So if you're a PM, you probably should or probably would love metrics. If not, you would not enjoy PM, right? So metrics breakdown exercise is really, really fun thing to do if you look at this context, right? So in a similar track of engagement, in a similar track of messages and chats, maybe one thing to look at is, hey, number of messages sent per week, right? So this is one of the core metric maybe from an engagement perspective, right? And you're going down one level on the metric. You will look at, hey, how do I break this down, right? You can break this down to number of messages sent per week per user times number of users sending messages per week, right? So essentially, you're looking at breaking down the quantity of users, mentors sending messages, and the number of messages sent per mentor, right? And then you can try to break it down a little bit more. Number of media messages sent plus number of text. So these two are obviously mutually exclusive, right? Text cannot be media cannot be text, right? So that essentially help us to understand, hey, are there more text or more media being sent, and why and how? How can we increase the levers, right? So that you can ladder up to number of messages sent per week. Just going down, breaking down even to the metrics of media, we can say, hey, if it supports image and video, for example, you can break it down to number of image content sent and number of video that is sent. And number of text you could probably, there are different ways to do it, but you could probably kind of break it down to number of long text and short text, and probably define short is less than X number of character and long is more than X number of character, right? So this is really on breaking down the metrics, and all these are pretty much quantitative. All these are all numbers that you really look at, and you probably should have a dashboard to track these metrics as well with the team. Kind of going back up, all right, and there's another way to see it, right? Is you want to see that, hey, from a reaction perspective, right? So imagine imagine a scenario where this particular use case supports reactions, right? And it's very, I mean, I use reactions on WhatsApp daily, on love, good, right, or going crazy, right? So number of message with reactions plus number of message without reactions. So these two are again mutually exclusive as well, right? And then kind of breakdown of number of message with different reactions, with like, with love, with handshake, with whatever, right? So all these are all again quantifiable, right? And you can kind of break down the metrics to understand the usage, right? Understand that what can we increase? Should we introduce another reaction? Should we increase the number of likes? Should we increase? How do we move those without reactions to reactions? Is it more of an education awareness thing that users don't know that there are reactions? Maybe is that onboarding required, right? So all these questions generate from this ideation with the team, right? So this metrics breakdown, right? Another form of product discovery. I mean, above these two are really above the research, right? The whole market research and going down to the ground. These are all pretty much more framework and kind of in more of a HQ work, headquarters work that you work with your team. So what's the difference, right, between metrics breakdown versus OST in short, right? So if you realize this is more business driven, right, more metrics numbers driven, business driven, right? Engagement numbers, adoption numbers, revenue, frequency, and you call it, it has it, right? And OST is more user driven, right? If you recall, I kind of frame it as a user, I want to, as a user, I want to do that, right? And second difference here is, as you can, if you realize, right, metrics breakdown is more quantitative, right, and OST is more qualitative, right? So a bit more towards the emotion side, maybe, or more towards the, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, but it's not available, right? And quantitative is really about numbers, about levers, about the whole part about moving the needle to kind of increase a particular metric. Another difference is OST is really good for ideation, coming together, because ideas are free, right? Everybody have different ideas, and you'd be very surprised where ideas come from different people, right? Because designers have a different way of seeing things, analysts have a different way of seeing things, right? Even if you bring a business stakeholder, even better, right? They can come in to say that, hey, they have interesting ideas, and that's where these ideas all come together to drive a outcome, because the outcome at the top is still the same, right? But below, the solutions are different, are unique, right? So these are all good for ideation, right? And compared to metrics breakdown, right, it's good for OKR setting, for example, because you can increase a particular metric, right? You can really look at the objectives of increasing engagement, and the key results is increasing messages sent, yada yada, right? So that those are more about OKR setting. All right. So these are the two, components of frameworks, right? I love to use them during product discovery phase, which are extremely important for product management. So on that note, right? So what is product discovery? Again, right? It is about answering the question of what should we build to solve a particular problem, or what problem are we solving in a way, right? And again, kind of moving right to the second part of the masterclass, is that the product delivery is that let's build it, right? Let's do it, right? So what should we build, and let's build it, right? Product discovery to product delivery. So let's look at product delivery, right? And a classic question that we always look at is, hey, there's so many problems to solve, there's so many things to do, right? And there's so many feature requests, right? Very favorite word, right? You kind of hear it daily on my work, right? Feature requests coming in from different parties, different Slack groups created just for different requests. And the question is, how should we prioritize these things, right? You have like 100 things in a backlog, which are very fun to do. Some are looks interesting, but question is, how should we prioritize here? Just introducing three very fundamental ways to prioritize, right? Moscow, Rice, and VE, right? So Moscow is my favorite, being the first one. Moscow is must have, should have, could have, and will not have, right? So MSCW, which O in the middle, right? They call it Moscow way of doing it. So why I like it personally is because it's easy to look at. It's easy to really have a conversation with a business stakeholders, or somebody else in marketing, for example, to say that, hey, is this a must have or should have? Or is this a should have or could have? Right? So these are very, very easy to understand phrases that we can kind of correlate, instead of saying a phrase that is so technical. This is very easy to understand, right? Must have, should have, could have, and will not have. Right? Second one is RICE, right? RICE, RICE. So reach times impact times confidence divided by efforts, right? So reach, let me just deep dive to one of each of these RICE for a moment, right? So reach is what kind of scale, right, is this particular solution reaching out to, right? What kind of market sizing, right? Impact as well, right? Impact is what kind of impact, what kind of outcome, right, you are increasing, right? How much are you moving, right, from a needle perspective, right? So and typically a very favorite word is what's the baseline, right? What's the baseline? If is it 0.2%, is it 20%? Are we increasing 20% to 80%? Is it already 90%? If it's 90%, there's only 10% increase. So that's something that you probably we want to kind of tackle, or something else there is bigger impact potential, right? Times confidence, right? Confidence can be increased, can be raised up by a few ways, right? Low confidence is like, I don't know whether this will work. high confidence is I have done research qualitatively, I have done experiments quantitatively, right? A few rounds, and that brings up the confidence. Divide by effort. Effort is obviously you look at what's the design effort required. Is it a redesign of the app, of the page? Is it a slight tweak, right? Or is it a revamp of a backend system to make sure this will work, right? So that's on the effort. So typically from a design and engineering perspective, right? So that's RISE. And VA, which is very straightforward, which is value over effort, right? Value over effort, right? So you put a value to it. You can imagine an Excel sheet of 20 things. There's a V column and an E column, right? And value is benefits. Effort is kind of risk as well, right? If you look at it holistically, yeah. So value and effort is something that very straightforward. VE, right? So these three are really just three of the many ways to prioritize, and it really depends on the team or the organization on what they adopt as well, right? Or essentially what the team adopt, right? You can kind of look at what they adopt and try to kind of implement this as well. Obviously, there are many more ways to prioritize, right? And after prioritizing this in a backlog, the next question is, how should we deliver products? Right, I think this is a very interesting question. Do we just launch it right after you're done, after you're tested, right? So classic three ways, right, is really looking at from a delivery perspective is phase-based rollout, okay, phase one, phase two, phase three rollout. Second in the middle, right, MVP plus iteration, okay. And the third one is experimenting, right? These are three different ways to kind of deliver something to the markets. And how do you decide whether which one is it? So this is actually from Reforge, right? Credit to Reforge, right? So there's ambiguity spectrum that you want to look at, right? If it's very high ambiguity, right, and a lot of unknowns, you want to experiment it to understand what is impact. If it's a low ambiguity, meaning that everybody is pretty much quite sure that this is going to work, right, and it's pretty much high confidence and ambiguity level is low, then you go for a phase-based rollout, right? Something in the middle, which is obviously very popular, right, is MVP and iterate over it, right, and it's very popular in especially startups, right? Obviously, experiment you need a huge scale of users so they can experiment on, right? Compared to a startup where you have a very low scale of users, you probably will not want to experiment. Will not be the right way to go as well. All right, so that's from a delivery front, right? So how should we deliver products from ambiguity spectrum, and really, I think what to focus on and emphasize on is really teamwork, right? Teamwork is so important in a product team, right? And really, teamwork makes the dream work. I think this is one of my favorite phrase, is because if a product manager run himself or product designer run himself, or engineering just coding, and I think it's just makes sense that everybody needs to come in together, right, to make the dream work. And a very interesting Venn diagram here, the product team, right? Design, tech, business, product in the center, right? A question, right, to all of you. Maybe you can think about it. Is this something that you think is correct, or you've seen this around? Design, tech, and business, and product in the center, centralized, right? Think about it, right? All right. Uh, I'm just looking through the chat. Cool. I can see a lot of chats coming in. Thanks. Hi. Yeah. So, want to introduce to you is what I believe in. Right? Is product is not at the center. Right? Maybe not. Right? Not in the center. But product is actually part of the Venn diagram. Right? Product, tech, design, and what's in the middle is really the business. Right? With product, tech, design collaborating together, and ultimately for the business, right? Even for non-profit, it'll be still an outcome, right, needed for sustainability, for example. So business here means outcome, right? So this is something that we really want to emphasize, that the product team is really this and centering on business rather than on this on the left. Cool. And this is really about, yeah, so this is what I want to share for product leadership from discovery to delivery. And it's not just yourself, it's really with the team. And that's what I'm going to share today. Thank you. This feel free to connect. This is the QR code for my LinkedIn profile. I do share a few PM advice regularly, as well as I run a podcast with founders in Southeast Asia. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Just send me a note and say, hey, I'm from ADPList BeMore Festival. I'll be more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. All right. So this is the end of the session. But if you have questions, right, I believe you might have some questions, Q&A section. So we leave the next 15 minutes ish for Q&A if you have any questions. Okay, I'm just looking at the screen that Elsa, the host, posted. So a question here by Rama. Thanks for the question. So would you mind sharing with us what tools which you frequently use and your advice to utilize, especially for early stage PM, right? So I think instead of looking at early stage or late stage PM, I think what more importantly is what size of company you are in. Right? If you're in a big company, for example, I'm in a team of like 12 product managers. I'm one of the 12 product managers, for example, right? Leading a few of them, compared to you are the first PM in a startup of 10 people, 20 people. So it's very different. So for these two distinctly different is really the startup tends to be more scrappy, right? Tends to be less structured. And what the framework I just now shared just now is really applicable to both in a different scale of a different complexity for different level of detail, right? Um, Small companies you tend to work with founders directly, right? Closer, and the head of product closer, right? And CPO if you have one, and to kind of work with them and lean, you will get to see the strategy of the company and your product discovery or the tools that you use. You kind of match to that in a way. In a big organizations, even for early stage PM going in, using this framework is also very useful, right? But you work in a team of your category, right? For example, I'm in ads, right? So I'll be in a product team with the ads product team, right? To really look at what are opportunities we can seize from your performance or from an inventory or from the other frontiers. Yeah. So these tools are really useful. There are a lot of other tools that we use, especially in the PM world. But try to simply just start small and start simple first, and then build on it. Right. If you join on the first few months, try not to just go in and just implement these things and then, be an expert, right? So it's really going in, and to understand what problem they are trying to solve, right? Helping them and journeying with them to find the right problem to solve, because that is essentially more important than solving the problem. I hope I answered the question, Rama. Thank you. Cool. I see another question. So at what stage of product development do we use the OST? Is it during ideation? By Mehek, right? So yes. So I think the keyword here, just I mentioned, product discovery is actually continuous, right? So you start using OST during ideation, probably during you start to plan your roadmap, right? There'll be another masterclass by itself, road mapping. But yes, essentially during ideation is the best time to do OST, so that you will kind of discover what the users really want, right? And doing metrics breakdown as well, right? But it has to be continuous. Means that there's a reason why it's called a tree, right? So I'm not a gardener, but if you are, you know that you need to kind of prune and groom the tree to make it better, to grow branches, to cut off branches, right? To build more stems, right? To water it with water and sun it, right? So it's a tree, right? So you need to keep grooming it and keep improving it so that it's more and more holistic and you solve more and more problems as a team, and kind of bring the team around with you as well. That's essentially important. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Mehak. What are some framework to put together all the insights that our team have collected to visually see all our collective learnings? Thanks for Marco. putting all the insights that our team have collected to visually see all of. Okay, so I think if I understand your question correctly, is how do we pull together all the insights together from the team, right? So that we can all visually see the collective learnings. So um, I think one thing very important as a PM, the two pillars, right, of a PM essentially is documentation and communication, right? And what this is really about documenting what we have learned. So I'm a huge fan of Figma or FigJam, right? Of putting can make OST in a FigJam format, obviously, right? That everybody is there. So I think that is where you can kind of visualize that, right? You can really look at the tree growing quarter by quarter, month by month, right? I think that is where it's a good way to do a OST or a metrics breakdown. But for prioritization, right? Just like I mentioned about the whole VE and Rise and Moscow. My favorite, this my preference is really Excel sheet, just very old school, right? Really putting because it's easy to kind of put numbers and calculate the ranking, right? So you can rank them and kind of stack rank them, right? Yeah. So Excel sheet is my favorite. So that's how I kind of pull together the insights so that the team collectively can look at it and plan accordingly. Thanks, Marco, for the question. Hope I answered the question. All right. So, question from Augustine: where can we get more resources to learn about product discovery, and also will this slide be shared with attendees? So, I believe I think Elsa can take this question on whether the slide will be shared. I believe it will. And for more resources to learn about product discovery, I think there are a few people to follow on LinkedIn. Um, One of them is obviously Teresa Torres because she is a huge advocate for product discovery. Um, Second is Marty Kagan, right? Marty Kagan wrote a book on Inspired, which is definitely encourage anybody, any product manager to take up that book to read because it is so easy to understand and it's really very applicable, right? And it's really inspiring because the book is called Inspired. But those books are these two folks, Marty Kagan and Teresa Torres, is something to follow to get more resources to learn about product discovery. And I strongly also encourage you to take up Reforge. I'm a huge fan of Reforge. I took up some programs which are really, really helpful, right, in terms of product management, in terms of product market fit, in terms of product strategy. So these are a few resources that you can kind of check that out. Thank you for the question. Rajesh, would you ever go with your gut feel over research findings for a feature in the product? Great question. Yeah. This is a tough question, right? So when you look at gut feel over research findings, it depends how you want to see it, whether you want to be objective or subjective, right? I think for this is in a way, I think taking a step back, your gut feel can be correct, your gut feel can be wrong, right? But if you have the team's gut feel, right? If the team come together and let's say your team have, let's say you have a squad of 8 people, right? For example, and 8 people have a gut feel of a similar gut feel, right? And I think that tends to have a higher, obviously, higher probability of getting it correct, right? So I think that itself, what I'm trying to say is that your gut feel is your gut feel, but if your gut feel matches with like 7 other gut feels, and together it will definitely bring up the confidence level of that gut feel, right, over research findings. But objectively, research findings will still be very important for convincing stakeholders. Stakeholders management is at the masterclass, totally, right? Those who are doing stakeholder management every day, you will know what I mean. So yeah, I think this is where I think we can use gut feel with the team. Just another point on this is really in a small startup, right, where you don't have the capacity of time and resource to do research findings, you tend to go more gut feel, right? Because first, you have less resource. Second, you have less time, Third, you have less so-called people to test with, right? And people don't know your product that much. So gut feel and founders do have a direction, sometimes very clear direction, right? So that itself is something that to lean on. And gut feel tends to be working better for startups, but still gut feel plus research together is the way to go. Yeah, big companies definitely more research findings, because if you work in a big corporation, you go for gut feel. I don't think that will work out well. Yeah. Thanks. Great questions. I love your questions, folks. But we have 5 minutes left, so just taking a last few questions. ADT question: which research is more impactful, quantitative or qualitative? I think I think both are both are impactful. It's a really tough question, to be honest. But I think qualitatively, on the design or research front, I think that is very important, to understand the users, and you will get to see um, more of the emotions and the why, and really able to empathize with them, right? And to bring a team together, research is really empathizing the users or customers, right? And quantitatively, with analytics and engineering, right, making and them and us and me convinced that this is the right solution and this is the right problem to solve. I think both are really needs to marry together, because if you go just one of them, it's not easy to convince. It's just not easy to convince. But if you ask me to choose one of them, I will have to choose quantitative, because you get more numbers and you get more volume of from experiments, and that is able to prove better than interviewing 20 people, even 50 people qualitatively. Yeah, but if you ask me to choose, so you can just do one last question. So Elsa will just post one last question on the screen, and you can read. All right, so um last question on the screen. So getting your feet dirty, an essential part of the job. Um, Not just getting your feet dirty, it's getting your hands and body dirty. It's a part of the job. I think as a product manager, I think you just do different things every day, right? And getting your hands and feet dirty is definitely an essential part of the job, because you just have to do, you just have to kind of fill the gaps for the team. To be honest, you kind of buy sandwiches for the team to, buy fruit juice for them to drink, but you really do things that are trying to marry and connecting the dots, instead of, because PM doesn't code, PM doesn't design, PM doesn't analyze that much as analysts, but you do need to know bits and pieces of this so that you can connect the dots. So yes, definitely essential part of the job to get our hands and feet dirty. All right. So I think that is the last question. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me on ADPList. I think Elsa just posted my profile on the chat, so feel free to reach out to me, arrange a session. We can definitely have another one-to-one session. Thank you everyone for your attention, and thank you for your great questions. I see a lot of people putting things on the chat. I'm just going to scroll through and um, check it out. Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry, just answering this. Supposed to be start. Hi from Barcelona, Milan, Nigeria. Good stuff. Silicon Valley. Love the place. Definitely. Yeah. Tanzania, India. All right, yeah, so global, right? So virtual, and really thank you for your time, student for life. Thanks, Boston. All right, so hope you enjoy the festival, the BeMore festival. Feel free to join other sessions as well. Very helpful sessions of other mentors sharing. All right, hope you learn the takeaway. Hope you apply this at your job, and build better products for the world and solve impactful problems. All right. Thank you so much.